Let's go to the AFC. Let's talk about the matchup yesterday in Pittsburgh as Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills beat Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers 26-7 for the Bills. Josh Allen, he went 15 for 23. He threw for 123 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He also had a rushing touchdown in this game. He has now the most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in NFL history. He surpassed Cam Newton. He now has 76 rushing touchdowns. So big shout out to Josh Allen. But he wasn't the story. James Cook, 32 carries, 144 rushing yards for the Bills, for the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers, he struggled. He went 10 for 21. He threw for 117 passing yards. So, my biggest takeaway after I watched the Bills dismantle the Steelers Sunday afternoon in Pittsburgh, my biggest takeaway was it is officially time for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin to part ways. Because there comes a time and a moment where the messenger loses the audience and the messenger's message doesn't resonate with the audience the way that it once did. We've all been in relationships and marriages, and not all relationships and marriages end because of cheating or because of finances. No, sometimes relationships and marriages end because of the season in your life being up with that person in your life. Meaning this person's time in your life has ran its course. It doesn't mean either one of you are bad people. She's not a bad person. He's not a bad person either. It just means that the time spent in each other's lives has come to an end and it's time to part ways. And that's exactly how I feel about Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I know Mike Tomlin for his career as the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. He's 197, 123-2, which means he's won 62% of his games. He's a Super Bowl champion, and he is one of the best coaches in his era when he came into the NFL with Bill Belichick, with Andy Reid, with Sean Payton. Make no mistake about it, Mike Tomlin deserves to be in that conversation with those other elite NFL head coaches that I just named. But since Mike Tomlin has been the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and specifically since 2016, the Pittsburgh Steelers have been a mess. In their last 17 games, the Pittsburgh Steelers, under Mike Tomlin, they are 6-11. They ended last season on a 5-game losing streak, and they lost in the playoffs and got destroyed by Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. They have lost 6 consecutive playoff games since 2016. They've been to the playoffs 6 straight times, and they have lost 6 playoff games since 2016. In each of those games, they trailed by at least 21 points at one point in each of those 6 playoff games. That is a new NFL record. They also haven't led at any point in any of those 6 playoff losses, and they've been outscored 73-0 in the first quarter of those playoff games. If this were any other head coach, everybody would be calling for this particular head coach's job. Again, I love Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's won 62% of his games as head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is a Super Bowl champion. He's never had a losing season as an NFL head coach. But it is officially time for Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers to part ways in Pittsburgh. And the thing is about the Steelers right now, not only are they a bad football team, but specifically, they are a bad defensive football team. Yesterday, the Buffalo Bills had 249 rushing yards. 249 rushing yards, and James Cook specifically, 32 carries, 144 rushing yards, averaging 4.5 yards per carry. I mean, it was a complete domination yesterday in Pittsburgh as the Buffalo Bills dominated the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Bills, they had the most rushing yards by a road team at Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh since the stadium opened in 2021. Remember, it was previously Heinz Field. It is now Acrisure Stadium. I could be pronouncing that wrong. Acrisure Stadium. They have the most rushing yards since the stadium opened. They had 249 rushing yards yesterday in week 13. And so, for me, this defense is the highest paid defense in the NFL. And they got flat out punked by the Buffalo Bills offense in week 13. And here's the key in this game. The Bills, they did not have their left tackle in Deion Dawkins or their right tackle in Spencer Brown. And the Bills' offensive line dominated and pushed around the Steelers' defensive line for 3.5 hours. It was a complete obliteration from an offensive standpoint by the Buffalo Bills as they dismantled the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. But that's not even the only place that you can begin to look at when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers struggles. Overall, to me, the Steelers are still living in the past. They have not adapted to today's NFL where it's an offensive league. I get so tired of watching Steeler games, and I'm watching the Pittsburgh Steelers struggle offensively and not be able to score points. And I'm looking at Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. And this is why it's an organizational failure what's going on right now in Pittsburgh. Because the Steelers, they still have that defense first mentality where we're going to play elite defense and we're going to manage the game offensively and basically try and muddy up the game, make the game ugly, and hopefully our offense can make some plays late in the game to be able to win football games. And that is not the right approach if you want to be a true Super Bowl contender in the NFL now. You have to be able to score points. And the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is one of the worst offenses in the NFL. Total yards, they average 294 yards per game. That's ranked 29th. They average 188 passing yards per game. That's ranked 24th. They average 94 rushing yards per game. That's ranked 28th in the NFL. They average 23 points per game. That's ranked 15th in the NFL. This is the same team that decided to trade George Pickens in the offseason, which made absolutely no sense to me. That made no sense to me because if the Packers, the Rams, the Chiefs had George Pickens on their roster and they traded for a DK Metcalf, do you actually believe that the Rams, Chiefs, or Packers would then trade George Pickens, a bona fide number 2 receiver, within your offense? That's exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers did. They traded DK Metcalf, and then they decided to trade George Pickens to the Cowboys. And we see how that's worked out for the Cowboys. George Pickens has elevated his game to where now you can't really say that CeeDee Lamb is the number 1 receiver. Now it's 1A and 1B as far as Lamb and Pickens as far as the number 1 receiver in Dallas. So the Steelers trade for Metcalf and then they trade Pickens to the Cowboys. That was a terrible move, in my opinion. If anything, you keep Pickens with Metcalf and you try to improve your roster offensively around your 2 elite skill position players. No, the Steelers decided to trade George Pickens, and he's one of the best receivers in pro football. Made no sense. They still don't have a true running back. I mean, Jaylen Warren does the best that he can, but Jaylen Warren's a number 2 running back. He's not a number 1 running back. So you combine their defensive struggles with their offense not adapting to today's NFL and them trading away elite players within their offense that were proven. This is why the Pittsburgh Steelers sit here today at 6-6 with a very, very unlikely chance at the playoffs. I don't see them being able to make the playoffs. So I think that this team overall, they are headed in the wrong direction. It's not like the Buffalo Bills have been playing great this year. The Bills have not been great this season. Matter of fact, I would make the argument that this is the worst version of the Buffalo Bills in the Josh Allen era. And they flat out punked the Steelers yesterday in Pittsburgh. Flat out punked them. As for Aaron Rodgers, it's also time for him to hang him up. Aaron Rodgers, his best days are behind him. Because we have seen Aaron Rodgers in years prior, he's able to make up for the other deficiencies within his football team because of his greatness. And Aaron Rodgers is no longer that player. So the Steelers need to change up their offensive identity and change up their entire approach as an organization and shift towards offense. It's an offensive league. Look at the 2 teams right now who lead the AFC and the NFC. The Broncos head coach is Sean Payton, an offensive mind. The Bears head coach is Ben Johnson, an offensive mind. These offensive head coaches, they know how to make adjustments within the season. It seems like a lot of these defensive coaches, like Mike Tomlin and even other coaches as well who struggle with their Dan Quinn, he's a defensive head coach as well. These coaches struggle in season making adjustments. Mike Tomlin, Dan Quinn, these coaches struggle in season making adjustments. And it's like these offensive head coaches, they make great adjustments. I'm going to talk about the Packers here in a little bit, but the Packers have gotten out of their free fall. And now the Packers are back in the mix in the NFC. Matt LaFleur's made adjustments. Look at Kyle Shanahan. I think Kyle Shanahan is the runaway NFL head coach of the year. He's made adjustments because the Niners have been dealing with a bunch of injuries. Brock Purdy has been injured. George Kittle has been injured. And the San Francisco 49ers are in the playoff race in the NFC with a banged up roster. And we see it in the AFC as well with Mike Vrabel, the head coach for the Patriots. Now, Vrabel's also a defensive guy. He played defense when he played in the NFL. But I like Vrabel overall as a head coach. I think Vrabel's more similar to Dan Campbell. But these offensive minds like Andy Reid and Sean Payton, they know how to make in-season adjustments, and coaches like Dan Quinn and Mike Tomlin do not. But we know Mike Tomlin is one of the greatest head coaches in his era, with Bill Belichick, with Sean Payton, with Andy Reid. But the time has officially come where the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin need to part ways. As for the Bills, this was a good win for the Bills, but I'm still not impressed with the Bills. I mean, Josh Allen didn't even have 130 passing yards, for crying out loud. Now, the Buffalo Bills did a great job running the football with James Cook, and Josh Allen also scored a touchdown in this game. But I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. The Buffalo Bills, to me, they're tight ends. Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, to me, is going to be the key for them being able to go on a deep playoff run. I don't believe in their receiving core. Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir, they are average at best. But their tight ends, I believe in Kincaid and Knox. And I think in order for the Bills to go on a deep playoff run, they're going to have to get more creative offensively with their tight ends. Now, I know Kincaid is dealing with a hamstring injury, but they got Dawson Knox, they got Dalton Kincaid. You still got Josh Allen, who's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. And when you have Josh Allen, you have a puncher's chance, and you can beat anybody in the playoffs. If the Bills made the playoffs and they had to go up against the Colts or the Texans, even the Patriots for that matter, I like the Bills' chances with Josh Allen. But I still think this team is a flawed football team. They do not play well and do well against the run defensively. I mean, they give up 141 rushing yards per game. That's ranked 30th in the NFL. So the Bills have to improve as well as a football team. But this game, to me, was more about Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those are my thoughts on Bills Steelers Week 13.